Danny DeVito forced off Jimmy Kimmel Live after host's relentless mockery goes too far. What started as a friendly chat to promote DeVito's new film turned into the most awkward TV moment of the year when Kimmel wouldn't stop with the personal attacks. The lights of the Jimmy Kimmel Live studio glowed extra bright last night, but not as bright as the red in Danny DeVito's face as the interview spiraled out of control. The beloved actor had arrived at the studio in good spirits, waving to fans and ready to chat about his latest movie, Small Victories. "We've got a huge star and a tiny package tonight," Kimmel announced to the audience as DeVito walked onto the stage. The crowd cheered wildly. They loved Danny DeVito. The actor smiled and took a seat, but that smile would soon disappear. Things started normally enough. They talked about the weather in LA, and DeVito shared a funny story about getting stuck in traffic on the way to the studio. The audience laughed along, and for the first 5 minutes, everything seemed fine. "So Danny, this new movie of yours, Small Victories. I guess with your height, all victories are small victories, right?" Kimmel said with a smirk. DeVito chuckled politely. "Well, Jimmy, the title actually refers to the main character's journey of—" "I'm just kidding," Kimmel interrupted. "But seriously, do they have to lower the camera when they film you? Or do they just zoom out really far?" The audience's laughter became awkward. DeVito shifted in his seat but kept his cool. "You know, Jimmy, height jokes are kind of boring. I've heard them all. Maybe we could talk about the movie? It's got some really great scenes that I think people will enjoy." Kimmel nodded, but the smirk didn't leave his face. Sure. But first, I've got a surprise for you." At that moment, a stagehand brought out a giant papier-mâché head meant to look like DeVito. It was cartoonish with an enormous nose, bulging eyes, and exaggerated features. Kimmel stood up and put it on, then started waddling around the stage. "Look at me! I'm Danny DeVito! I need a booster seat to drive my car." Kimmel's voice came muffled from inside the giant head. The audience gasped. Some laughed nervously, but most sat in uncomfortable silence. DeVito's face darkened. "Really, Jimmy? Is this what passes for comedy these days?" Kimmel took off the head and sat back down, still laughing. "Come on, it's just a joke. You used to be funnier than this, Danny. Remember when you were actually relevant in Hollywood?" Atmosphere in the studio shifted instantly. DeVito straightened up in his chair. "Excuse me?" DeVito's voice was quiet but firm. "Well, let's be honest," Kimmel continued, looking at his note cards. "Your last few movies haven't exactly been hits. And from what I hear, Small Victories isn't going to change that trend. My sources tell me test audiences were walking out." DeVito's eyes narrowed. "That's completely untrue. Who are these sources you're talking about?" Kimmel shrugged. "I can't reveal my sources. But while we're being honest, let's talk about your career. It's been what, 20 years since you've had a real hit? Even It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is carrying you at this point." The audience was dead silent now. The cameras captured DeVito's expression, changing from shock to anger. "That's enough, Jimmy," DeVito said calmly. "I came here to promote my film, not to be insulted. I've been in this business for over 50 years. I've won Emmy Awards, a Golden Globe, been nominated for an Oscar. What exactly are you trying to do here?" But Kimmel wasn't stopping. "Oh, come on, don't be so sensitive. Did you know," he turned to address the audience directly, "that Danny here was actually turned down for the role of Yoda in Star Wars because they thought he wasn't short enough? They wanted someone who could fit in a shoebox." A few scattered laughs came from the audience, but most people were visibly uncomfortable. DeVito took a deep breath. "You know what, Jimmy? I've always respected you as a host. I've been on your show many times over the years, but tonight, you're being incredibly unprofessional." "Unprofessional?" Kimmel raised his eyebrows in mock surprise. "I'm just trying to have some fun. Isn't that why people love Danny DeVito? The funny little man who makes us laugh? Or are you too important for jokes now?" DeVito shook his head. There's a difference between jokes and disrespect. You're crossing a line. Kimmel leaned forward. Speaking of lines, I heard you had trouble with your lines on set. The director had to cut your speaking parts because you couldn't remember them. Is that true, Danny? Is the memory going along with the height? The crowd gasped. Even Kimmel's band leader looked shocked. DeVito put down the water glass he'd been holding. His hand was shaking slightly, but his voice remained steady. You know, Jimmy, when I was starting out in this business, there was something called professional courtesy. Hosts respected their guests. They didn't ambush them with lies and insults just to get cheap laughs. Oh, please, Kimmel rolled his eyes. Don't lecture me about professionalism. We all remember the stories about your behavior on the taxi set. And didn't you show up drunk to an interview once? DeVito's face flushed. That was one time, many years ago, and I publicly apologized for it. I've never hidden my mistakes. But this isn't about me, is it? This is about you trying to get attention by attacking someone you think is an easy target. The tension in the room was electric. Camera operators glanced at each other nervously. The show's producer was whispering urgently into his headset. Kimmel laughed, but it sounded hollow. Don't be so dramatic, Danny. It's a comedy show. If you can't take a joke, maybe you shouldn't be in entertainment. DeVito looked directly into the camera, then back at Kimmel. You know what? You're right about one thing. Maybe I shouldn't be here. Not on a show that thinks bullying is entertainment. He started to stand up. Kimmel's smile faltered for the first time. Wait, are you seriously walking out? We haven't even talked about your movie yet. DeVito paused. Do you actually want to talk about my movie, Jimmy? Or do you have more personal attacks lined up? The audience was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. Kimmel's smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. Look, Danny, I'm just doing my job here. The audience loves it when things get a little spicy. He gestured to the crowd, expecting support, but was met with uncomfortable silence. DeVito remained standing. Your job is to interview guests, not humiliate them. I've been on plenty of talk shows, Jimmy. This isn't normal. Maybe you're just too sensitive, Kimmel shot back, his tone hardening. Back in your day, stars could take a joke. Now everyone's so worried about their feelings. Back in my day? DeVito repeated slowly. You're talking to me like I'm some relic. I'm still here, still working, still relevant. And back in my day, hosts showed respect. Kimmel laughed and turned to the audience. Respect? He wants respect. Should we all bow down to the mighty Danny DeVito? He made an exaggerated bowing motion. The crowd's discomfort was visible now. A few people even shouted, Come on, Jimmy! And leave him alone. DeVito took a deep breath. I think I should go. This clearly isn't the place to discuss my film. Wait, Kimmel said, suddenly shifting his tone. Let's talk about the movie. Small victories, right? Is it about your career? The audience gasped. Someone in the front row actually booed. DeVito turned to face Kimmel directly. You know what, Jimmy? I've been in this business since before you were born. I've worked with legends. Jack Nicholson, Michael Douglas, Tim Burton. I've directed films, produced them, starred in them. I've created characters people still love decades later. What exactly are you trying to prove here? Nothing, Kimmel said, raising his hands in mock surrender. Just having a conversation. But since you brought it up, don't you think it's time to step aside and let the younger generation take over? I mean, how many 79-year-olds are still trying to headline movies? Age jokes now? Really? DeVito shook his head. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel, Jimmy. A woman in the audience called out, We love you, Danny. Others joined in with supportive comments. Kimmel's face reddened slightly. This wasn't going as planned. Looks like you've got some fans here, Danny. Or maybe they're just members of the Short Actors Guild you probably founded. DeVito actually laughed at that, but it wasn't a humorous laugh. You know, I came here thinking we'd have a good time. Talk about the movie, share some stories, make people laugh. That's what I've always tried to do. Bring joy. But this isn't funny. It's just mean. It's entertainment, Kimmel insisted. And honestly, your reactions are making this better than I expected. The internet is going to love this. So that's what this is about? DeVito asked. Getting clicks? Going viral? You're willing to trash a decades-long professional relationship for some views? The studio had become uncomfortably hot. Camera operators were exchanging glances, unsure if they should keep filming. The show's producer had moved closer to the stage, ready to intervene. Kimmel picked up the giant DeVito head again. Maybe we should auction this off after the show. Genuine Danny DeVito tantrum prop? Could be worth something. Put that down, DeVito said quietly. What's that? I can't hear you from down there, Kimmel replied, putting the head on again and leaning down mockingly. In a swift motion that surprised everyone, DeVito reached up and knocked the papier-mâché head off Kimmel's shoulders. It fell to the floor with a hollow thud. I said, "Put it down," DeVito repeated, his voice level but intense. The audience erupted in applause. Even Kimmel looked shocked. "You just assaulted me on live TV," Kimmel said, trying to regain control. "It's not assault to knock down a prop being used to mock me," DeVito replied. "And this isn't live TV. We both know this is being recorded and you can edit it however you want." Kimmel's face hardened. "Security!" he called out. Two large men in black shirts appeared from the wings. DeVito looked at them, then back at Kimmel. "Really? You're having me removed because I stood up for myself?" "I'm having you removed because you're being difficult," Kimmel said coldly. "This is my show, Danny. My rules." The security guards approached DeVito, who held up his hands. "No need for that. I can walk out on my own." The audience started booing, not at DeVito, but at Kimmel. Someone shouted, "Let him talk about his movie." Kimmel ignored them. "Maybe next time you'll come with a better attitude, Danny." DeVito turned to face the audience. "I want to thank you all for your support. I'm sorry you won't get to hear about small victories tonight. It's a film I'm really proud of, about overcoming obstacles and standing up to bullies." He gave Kimmel a pointed look. More applause erupted. People were standing now. Kimmel tried to regain control. "We'll be right back after this break with a guest who can actually take a joke." But no one was listening to him anymore. All eyes were on DeVito, who was walking toward the exit with dignity, despite the humiliation he'd endured. One of the security guards reached for DeVito's arm, but he pulled away. "Don't touch me. I'm leaving." The guard looked at Kimmel, who nodded. "Make sure he leaves." As DeVito reached the stage exit, he turned back one last time. The cameras were still rolling, capturing what was quickly becoming one of the most memorable moments in late-night television history. "You know, Jimmy," DeVito said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent studio, "I've faced a lot of challenges in my life. Being short in Hollywood isn't easy, but I never let anyone make me feel small, and I'm not about to start now." With those words, DeVito turned and walked through the exit. The security guards, sensing the mood of the room, stepped back and let him pass. The door closed behind him with a quiet click that somehow echoed through the silent studio. For several long seconds, nobody moved. Kimmel stood frozen, his face a mixture of shock and anger. The audience remained quiet, many of them standing unsure whether to leave or stay. Finally, Kimmel cleared his throat. "Well, that was unexpected. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back." As soon as the on-air light went off, chaos erupted. The show's producer rushed onto the stage, his face pale. "What the hell was that, Jimmy?" he hissed. "That was completely out of line." "It was just a bit," Kimmel protested, but his voice lacked conviction. DeVito overreacted. We've done stuff like this before. Not like that, the producer said, shaking his head. Not with personal attacks on a respected actor. Twitter is already blowing up, and it's not in our favor. In the green room, DeVito was collecting his things, his hands still shaking slightly from the adrenaline. A young production assistant approached him nervously. Mr. DeVito, I just wanted to say, I'm so sorry about what happened out there. That's not how we usually treat our guests. DeVito's expression softened. Thank you. I appreciate that. The show's executive producer burst into the room. Danny, please don't leave yet. We need to talk about this. I think everything's been said, DeVito replied calmly. Look, what Jimmy did was wrong, way over the line. But we can fix this. We can edit out the worst parts before the show airs. Or you can come back out, and we can play it off as a staged bit. DeVito shook his head. No. What happened out there was real. And I want people to see it. Sometimes you have to stand up to bullies, even when they're in positions of power. This could damage the show's reputation, the producer warned. Maybe the show's reputation needs some damage, DeVito said. Maybe Jimmy needs to remember what it means to be a host, not just a provocateur. Meanwhile, back in the studio, Kimmel was trying to salvage the show. The audience, however, was restless. Many had taken out their phones, recording their own accounts of what they'd witnessed. Can we get them to stop recording? Kimmel asked one of the floor managers. We can try, but it's too late. It's already out there. As DeVito walked to the studio exit, fans and audience members who had left their seats gathered around him, offering support and asking for autographs. In stark contrast to the hostility he'd faced on stage, he was now surrounded by genuine warmth. We love you, Danny, someone called out. Jimmy was way out of line, another added. DeVito smiled and thanked them, signing a few autographs before his driver pulled up. Back inside, the remainder of the show proceeded in an atmosphere of awkward tension. Kimmel's jokes fell flat, and his interviews with the others scheduled. Guests felt forced and uncomfortable. Everyone knew they had witnessed something unprecedented. By the time DeVito reached his hotel, his phone was buzzing non-stop with messages of support from friends, colleagues, and his agent. I've never seen anything like it, his agent told him over the phone. The clips are everywhere. Team DeVito is trending. People are calling for Kimmel to apologize. I don't want an apology, DeVito said. I just want hosts to remember that their guests are human beings, not punching bags. The next morning, the incident was the top story on entertainment news. Video clips had gone viral overnight, with millions of views. Comment sections were filled with support for DeVito and criticism of Kimmel. Kimmel crosses the line read one headline. DeVito shows true class in talk show ambush read another. Several celebrities posted messages supporting DeVito. Watched. My friend our Danny DeVito stand up to bullying last night. Proud of you, Danny. True class, tweeted one A-list actor. By noon, the network had issued a statement. We regret the events that occurred during last night's show. This is not representative of our values or the respect we have for our guests. We are conducting a full review of the incident. Kimmel, facing intense backlash, finally posted a message on social media. I want to address what happened with Danny DeVito on my show. My attempts at humor crossed a line. They weren't funny. They were hurtful and disrespectful to a legendary actor and a good man. I got caught up in trying to create a viral moment and lost sight of basic decency. I'm truly sorry. DeVito didn't immediately respond to the apology. Instead, he focused on what he had come to do, promote his film. He appeared on a rival talk show the following evening, where he was treated with the respect he deserved. The host didn't mention the Kimmel incident directly, but did make a point of discussing DeVito's impressive career and the new film in depth. When finally asked about the incident days later, DeVito's response was characteristically gracious. In this business, you develop a thick skin. But that doesn't mean you should accept disrespect. I've known Jimmy for years, and I think he just had a bad night. We all do sometimes. I hope he learns from it, and I'm ready to move forward. The controversy actually boosted interest in small victories. The film opened to strong reviews and better-than-expected box office numbers. Many reviewers noted the irony that DeVito's real-life stand against Kimmel mirrored his character's journey in the film. As for Kimmel, the incident led to some soul-searching and a noticeable change in his approach to interviews. The giant prop heads disappeared from the show, and guests reported a more respectful atmosphere. The night Danny DeVito stood up to Jimmy Kimmel became more than just a viral moment. It became a lesson in dignity, respect, and the power of standing your ground, even when the whole world is watching.